Since the late 80s, industries in the Hunter have undergone a painful transformation. Many jobs have been lost as companies strive to become more competitive. That experience will now be used to reduce the strain on Turkey's economy as it attempts to enter the European Economic Community.
The Hunter is an excellent model. I mean, through the very early 80s with the steel plan and the heavy engineering development program and the restructuring in the coal industry, moving from primarily underground to open cut.
The Australian contingent is headed by Rob Dadge from the Australian Centre for Best Practice and Will Willis from the Department of Employment, Education and Training. They'll help Turkey's Treasury over the next 12 months to privatise many of its key industries, including steel, vehicle manufacture, clothing and textiles. They leave for Turkey tomorrow for 8 weeks of consultations, not knowing what to expect from a country they know little about.
Not a great deal. A few movies, a little bit of the Anzac tradition, but pretty much that's been my involvement with it.
Turkish bars, Turkish delight. Very little actually.
Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
The Chapel, really a honeymoon cottage, is an attractive addition to the award-winning Clarendon Farm tourist accommodation centre at Possum Brush. The handcrafted structure took 6 months to build and is already heavily booked, even though its launching has only just taken place, along with chamber music and gourmet hors d'oeuvres. For Tourism Board Chairman Wolfgang Grimm, it's a labour of love, coordinating tourism ventures throughout the state.
This part of the coast we haven't been to for quite a number of years now, so the time had come to come here again to have a look at the lakes and at the coastline.
The board meeting took place at Foster this afternoon, with the Tourism Board members informing local operators of the Mid-North Coast's part in their master plan for tourism in New South Wales.
According to council, it's the third time developer James Mullen has cleared land without proper permission. The latest incident involves work on a $7 million golf course. Council gave the developer until 2 o'clock today to comply with 5 development conditions.
The main condition, the one that is causing most concern, is a requirement that a soil erosion and sedimentation control plan, which was produced and approved by the Soil Conservation Service, had to be put in place before works on the site commenced.
Council is already deliberating 2 matters in court with James Mullen Developments. If this issue isn't resolved, it could be the third. This afternoon, however, work was stopped on the site near Caves Beach, the developer agreeing to 2 of the 5 conditions. According to Director of Developmental Services Tony Farrell, discussions will continue until the rest of the matters are resolved. It's been a rocky road for Council and the developer. However, James Mullen is vowing to, in the future, do all by the book.
We will be pursuing matters on a very squeaky clean basis from this point onwards.
Jodie McKay, NBN News.
And photo of the state with the netball state as well. Also last year we through the Hunter Academy. So I'd like to announce tonight, congratulations to Newcastle netball.
Thank you.
Rugby officials, supporters and sponsors were told Newcastle's financial base to enter the Sydney competition is assured, with a $180,000 contribution from Manchester Unity.
This level of sponsorship is as good as the best in Sydney, and better than most of the ones in Sydney, Randwick included. So we're very happy with the level of support that Manchester Unity have come on board with.
The sponsorship and Foundation Life membership, available till the end of the month, will be used to further develop the code within the Hunter and to ensure Newcastle is competitive in its first few seasons in the competition. That job starts on Sunday, with coach Keith Gollan beginning fortnightly sessions up until Christmas. While he remains guarded on who is likely to turn out for Newcastle next season, former rep player Rod Clark has indicated he will be at training.
He was in the World Cup squad. He played for New South Wales. He came out of Maitland initially, and he's interested and keen to make a comeback, but it just depends on work commitments and if he can fit it all in.
These heritage items are fully considered.
The only objection the council had was the way I see it.
The Falcons have retained their NBL option on Terry Dozier and won't make a final decision till next month, but the chances of him returning diminish further today. Coach Tom Wiseman declared Dozier would have to be available early next year before the completion of the Israeli season in April.
Our player has to be here by February, the beginning of February, so yes, if that contract would go beyond that date, then that would make the decision happen for us. So he can't do both. He can't play a full season in Israel and play in the NBL here.
Wiseman is continuing negotiations with several others, including Derek Rucker, but admits the end of season discussions with players and agents is taking its toll.
Well, when this all started, I had a lot more hair than what I do right now. You know, this isn't my favorite time of the year.
Meantime, Hunter Valley Eagles head baseball coach Gomer Hodge has all that to look forward to after he met with players for the first time at Marathon Stadium last night. Hodge and imported pitcher Neil Webber took to Marathon with the rest of the Eagles squad as the field at times resembled crossfire from the Gulf War. The Eagles have contracted 30 players for the season, but will announce a 20-man roster before next Friday night's first game against the Sydney Blues.
Thousands filed through the gates today. The success of this year's show has been put down to fine weather, but the Show Society president says the inclusion of the trade fair has drawn the large crowds.
Gate takings this year, Tracy, are absolutely phenomenal. We have passed last year's Saturday gate taking at midday today, and yesterday's gate taking was just $2 short of doubling the total for Friday of last year, so we're delighted.
The highlight of this afternoon's opening ceremony was the naming of the 1994 Miss Tari Showgirl. Member for Mile Lakes John Turner presented 19-year-old Sue Polson of Oxley Island with the winning title. Runner-up was Emma Harvey. Tracy Walsh, NBN News.
This hay is bound for Gilgandra in the state's Central West. It's part of an initiative between Paterson and Gilgandra Rotary Clubs to help Central West farmers desperately trying to survive the drought.
Starting to shoot sheep in the central region. There's very little stock left to feed.
Ironically, it's the Gilgandra farmers who came to the aid of their drought-stricken colleagues in southern Queensland earlier this year. Of the 250 bales of hay making the 5-hour trip today, 100 were donated by Singleton farmers and the truck supplied by Liddell Coal Preparation Plant. Over the weekend, the remainder of the 1,700 bales will be loaded on 3 semi-trailers. Once in Gilgandra, the local Rotary Club will distribute them among farmers.
We're just one club, 2 clubs working together. If clubs and organisations and people in the street do the same thing, we'll get through this and we'll have a rural industry which will get back into gear much quicker.
Catherine Lamond, NBN News.
By next October, this land neighbouring the Port Waratah coal loader will be transformed into a service facility for the Hunter's freight engines, employing 20 people. But the union claims there'll be at least a 10-month gap when there'll be no engines serviced at all in the Hunter. It claims the locomotives will be taken to Sydney or as far as Werris Creek in the state's northwest for their weekly checkup. The major service facility on Kooragang will still carry out heavy maintenance, but there'll be nowhere for a simple service.
That doesn't make a great deal of sense because you've got to man those engines to go there and of course man them all the way back again. To me it's uneconomical.
The Broadmeadow plant's workforce has already been cut by more than half to 120 employees. By the new year, all would have been redeployed or paid out. But unions say it should be given a new lease of life until the Port Waratah facility is finished.
No, I don't believe there's to be any capital money have to be invested or what. All the facilities are there now.
But State Rail claims the Broadmeadow plant is too old. Instead, it will maximise its modern facilities out of the Hunter until the Port Waratah project is finished. Meanwhile, good news for the residents of Metford near Maitland, who could have a rail passenger service by next June. Maitland Council approved the $4.2 million development last night, with 30 conditions after some concerns about noise and privacy. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
America's favourite pastime could well become Newcastle's greatest sporting passion over the summer. As the Hunter Valley Eagles proved over the weekend, they will be a competitive force in the ABL. Their historic first win was even more significant for 18-year-old Sam Grant, who with 2 strikes against him was the first Eagle to score a home run.
There's no one else on base, I just wanted to get on, and there was the pitch, I saw it and over it went.
Grant later put another out of the park, 2 of 16 on the night, and is understood to have impressed the visiting head scout from Montreal. Even if a major league contract is not forthcoming for next season, Australia is likely to lose one of its brightest young talents to a US college next August.
Texas and Illinois, that's an option which I'm looking a lot into because it gives me an education plus a chance to play pro ball down the line, and you're playing, a couple of days a week and training every day.
Grant praised the efforts of the whole squad, particularly the American imports, the team determined to repeat its performance against Melbourne this weekend.
It's a big season, and 2 wins doesn't make it.
While 8-month-old Madison may not be quite aware of Dad's achievement yesterday, it's something which she will no doubt be reminded of in the future, as Guy Andrews' victory will go down into Newcastle's surfing folklore. Cheered on by a boisterous home crowd, his tenacious attitude was rewarded, coming from over a minute behind to win one of the Super Series' best ever races.
The old Swansea Belmont crew were here, and a lot of friends and people I started out training with, and hopefully that inspired them to watching me yesterday. If they got something out of it, then that's fantastic.
The win was even more satisfying as Andrews had been attempting to bring a round of the series to Newcastle for several years. The 24-year-old today returned to the Gold Coast to begin preparing for round 3 at Manly on Sunday week, confident he can repeat his 1993 series victory.
Well, the year I won the second race, so I'm right up there with the point score and feeling quietly confident. There's a lot of good competitors, and as far as series goes, so I'll just take one race at a time and do my best in each one and just enjoy racing. I think that's the real secret these days.
When you turn at full volume, have everything on. Have a lot of farmers up this way. I'm very, very pleased with the bit of rain that they received tonight. So we ended in the original training colours.
The two Mackeys collided in mid-air above the rugged Bulahdelah Ranges at 10:15 this morning. A search and rescue operation was mounted immediately. Within half an hour, the two pilots were found. They'd ejected to safety. Trying to find the aircraft, though, proved extremely difficult. With the help of media helicopters, the wreckage of the first jet was sighted around 25 kilometres north of Bulahdelah off the Markwell Road.
If you get down low enough, you'll see that there is wreckage there, but it's just very hard to decipher.
Air traffic controller Glenn Jones, who was aboard the NBN helicopter, was the first RAF officer to inspect the wreckage. On board the plane were ammunition and oxygen bottles. It was feared they could explode. Little was left of the jet. The plane had hit the ground out of control and at high speed. It's unsure whether the aircraft was burning as it crashed or if the fire ignited after impact. Darren Pearson saw the plane crash. He notified the RAF and police.
Well, I just heard a loud bang and then next minute I looked up and here's a plane with one wing just doing a corkscrew nosedive, fair smack into the ground.
Once the first site had been cordoned off, crash investigators and ammunition experts moved in. Meantime, farmer Stan Wipkowski was able to give searchers an idea of where the second aircraft may have hit.
When he banged, I come out and the aeroplane seems to me was down. I see only cloud smoke.
Again, it was smoke that led our helicopter to the crash scene around 4 kilometres northwest of the first wreckage. The RAF rescue helicopter was notified and within minutes 2 people were winched into the area, confirming it was indeed the second aircraft. Again, the jet had hit at high speed, tearing tops off trees and igniting small fires.
The sight of charging horses won't be seen again at Scone's old track. After 47 years of racing history, it's simply run out of puff. The facilities that have catered for generations of punters can't cope with racing in the 90s. And for a town that prides itself as the home of horses, that's not good enough. But the track went out on a high, with a 7-race card, our best, the Class 1 handicap over 1,250 metres. Clever Answer paid $3.30 and $2, Instant Reason 2 even, with no third dividend. The trifecta $58.20. But there's no looking back for punters, the new track providing the best bet yet. The $6 million facility will open next month, boasting 3 training services, grass, cinders and sand, and also a promise to provide country racing with a new benchmark for excellence. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
It's a common problem for local councils, ratepayers complaining about the state of our roads. Saturday, Port Stephens Council held a briefing session hoping to inform the public on what's happening on the streets. And the news isn't good. More and more people are being killed on local roads.
We've had something like 300 major accidents a year on our roads, reducing over the last 5 or 6 years down through the 200s, but jumped up again in 1993.
So far this year there have been 12 fatalities on Port Stephens roads compared with just 5 last year. The council's planning and design engineer Hugh Donaldson says Port Stephens has $4 million to care for local roads this year. He believes they need at least 3 times that. The council is calling on public help.
We don't have all the answers today, but funding is a part of it, community support, political support. They're all the things we need. It's really the community who'll decide if they're going to put more money into roads.
Peter Ryan, NBN News. The seat of power in Port Stephens may still be drawn like a raffle after the vote last night to retain the old system. Under that method, councillors elect a new mayor every year, pulling a name from a hat if numbers are equal. A motion for a mayor to be elected by the people, as in Newcastle and Cessnock councils, was knocked back. Port Stephens Mayor Councillor Craig Bowman says leaders of any other level of government are not directly elected, with voters instead deciding on a party or a local member.
As voters vote for a state parliamentarian and a federal parliamentarian, we don't vote for a premier or a prime minister.
There were 2 draws from a hat which eventually gave Councillor Bowman the job of mayor. Understandably, he thinks it's the best way to select the leader for the council.
Well, I think it's a good system.
With unemployment still one of the hottest issues, the federal government is keen to see its white paper Working Nation in action. $22.7 million will be spent in the Hunter on job subsidies and training programs. The minister expecting 3,000 new jobs by late December.
Well, they'll come from a number of different businesses in the region. They'll be associated with the tourism industry, with the food processing industry, with the construction industry.
A consultative committee will be set up to work with DEET in identifying labour market needs. The Hunter Port Authority's Managing Director Jeff Connell picked to head the group. Young people have been targeted as a top priority. A detailed report released today reveals youths in the Hunter are less qualified than others when it comes to entering the workforce. With the Hunter's unemployment level nearly 5% above the national average, the minister says it's skills and training that will help the long-term unemployed find and maintain jobs.
We want to make it easier for them to get those skills, and we want to make sure that different avenues, different pathways for obtaining skills go beyond the TAFE colleges and the universities and the schools.
The minister's visit to the region was good news for 40 long-term unemployed people in the Maitland district. $450,000 have been allocated for work to link a number of walk and cycleways across the area.
And this squares with the point, I think.
It was a simple plan that put Cooranbong, population 4,500, on the tourist map. Chasing Sunday day trippers and weekday bus tourists, the town launched a direct marketing, television and print advertising campaign, and the effort is producing results.
Part of the whole deal was that the situation be monitored, and we were lucky enough on Easter Sunday to have visitation within the business area here of Cooranbong increase by 750%, so that was really pretty exciting.
The campaign was jointly funded by both local businesses and Lake Macquarie Tourism. The seventh-day Adventist-based community heavily promoting its best-known landmarks and features. From a field of 115 entries, Cooranbong has been recognised in the Hunter Valley Tourism Awards for its outstanding contribution to the industry.
We found something successful, and the dollars we've spent have been returned in multiples. So, yeah, the message is that little communities can do it.
Melinda Smith, NBN News.
Today's 142-kilometre stage between Bayswater Power Station in the Upper Hunter and Araring Power Station in Lake Macquarie started in hot and strenuous conditions. Despite the fierce rivalry between competitors, many offered each other a cool reprieve. While some cyclists made a quick pit stop, the Hunter Valley's vineyards provided a picturesque backdrop for those on the move. 45 kilometres into the race, Swiss rider Ralph Gartman and Australia's John Kent broke away. For some in their wake, the wooden bridge presenting a problem. With Gartman and Kent maintaining their break, tour leader Robbie McEwen for the AIS and his main rival, Germany's Jens Voigt, remained back in the pack some 7 minutes behind. In the sprint to the finish, Gartman had enough to hold on. Kent settled for second with former stage winner Jamie Drew home third. McEwen still claims the yellow jersey and the overall lead. Gartman moves into third place after today's victory. The Classic continues tomorrow. Catherine Lamond, NBN News.